Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report. Trusted, timely, tradition.
Welcome back. Well, supply chain issues have really been the center of headlines since 2020. But here we sit in 2023 and talking to some equipment manufacturers, the situation hasn't really improved. And in some cases, it may be getting worse. So what is the underlying issue, and is there hope that we could finally see improvements when it comes to supply chain headaches this year? That's our Farm Journal report this week. Supply chain challenges consistently hit agriculture in 2022.
We are conditioned to expect the black swans to the point where they're no longer black swans, they're just kind of inevitable disruptions.
And while there are glimmers of hope, those challenges continue to be a pain point in 2023.
I think that the narrative has changed somewhat to a greater level of supply throughout the supply channel. This doesn't necessarily mean that there's not going to be that odd chemistry which is not so readily available, but it's certainly relative to the last few years, the supply concerns have abated quite a lot.
Rabobank's Sam Taylor says replacement costs for crop inputs are currently cheaper than a year ago, but a sector still fragile to supply chain issues is the farm machinery and equipment sector.
The supply chain challenges that we experienced in 21 and 22 are with us for a little bit longer.
National Farm Machinery Show this week had booth after booth displaying the latest and greatest in technology and equipment, but leaders in the equipment industry say supply chain issues are a hurdle in bringing new products to market.
Absolutely, it's been an issue. Supply chains have been, highly disrupted in the last 12, 18, 24 months.
We sat down with John Deere's Chief Technology Officer Jamie Heineman during CES in January, and the tail end of our conversation covered the uncertainty supply chain issues have injected into the ag equipment sector.
Our supply base is telling us that things get markedly better as we get towards the last half of the year.
Good news down the road, but it means the disruptions are still present today and could be that way for several more months.
It's progressively getting better. Our third quarter and fourth quarter of last year showed us, the improvement in our ability to deliver the products that are being ordered to the marketplace. I expect that to continue in the first quarter of this fiscal year for us.
Association of Equipment Manufacturers Kurt Blades also sees improvement on the horizon.
They're pointing to this lasting for probably another few months, but maybe by the end of the year, we'll begin to see some return to normalcy, whatever normalcy looks like.
But he warns today that equipment manufacturers across the world are grappling with the same problem.
What is the one thing that is in tight supply? It is not one thing. It's a whole collection of things. In fact, it's some of the things you wouldn't hear about. Microchips get talked about a lot.
We had this level of challenge. Maybe now it's a little bit less, but we're not out of the woods. So it could be tracks one day, it could be tires the next day. We have a lot of very unique, high value custom castings, a heat treated custom casting that you can't just go get, and it's a very unique supplier.
A little bit of a whack-a-mole strategy. It's always something new. Something new is coming up every time, and it just happens to be that, castings are our current issue and the current challenges, but it's always something different.
AEM recently conducted a survey of its members showing the biggest supply issue in the ag sector is tracks, and those included components. And it's semiconductors and chips proving to be an issue for both agriculture and construction. But as Case IH's North American lead Kurt Coffey told us this week, the supply chain issues continue to vary.
The last year or two has been custom castings, chips, tracks, tires. We actually pulled strategic sourcing in and went on third-party markets to go buy chips from third parties, and truly millions of dollars of chips from a third party, bring them in, ship them to our partner supplier to finish a complete good so we can keep our lines going.
Blade says while semiconductor chips receive a lot of press, the supply chain strains are also coming from the items you don't normally think about.
The other things that are interesting are like wiring harnesses, which oftentimes are made in the Ukraine, or seat cushions, which are made in Texas in areas that were destroyed by floods. It's not one thing, it's a collection of things.
No matter what the item is in scarce supply, the problem is bigger than one part or one company.
The underlying issue with all the supply chain challenges are labor.
AEM recently surveyed 179 equipment manufacturer executives about the supply chain late last year. 98% of respondents say they still face supply chain issues, with more than half experiencing supply chain conditions growing worse, not getting better.
If you point it back to one thing, it is a worker shortage, and that one's probably going to be with us for a while.
And that's why the industry could grapple with labor challenges for years to come, forcing companies like Case IH to come up with creative solutions.
The pivot to get product to customers customers is doing different things with labor, sourcing, strategic sourcing. What we're doing, actually, I would use one word, and it's we're being very disciplined.
Getting creative is exactly what the equipment industry is doing. The AEM survey showed equipment manufacturers of all sizes are increasing inventory and supplier base, creating a more vertical integration of supply chains, certifying alternative suppliers, as well as focusing more on supply chain reliability than price. Despite the constant supply chain obstacles, equipment executives are optimistic.
We're not just hearing that it's progressively getting better, we're sensing it, we're feeling it, we're seeing it come through in our deliveries. So as long as things continue on that trajectory, I feel pretty good about next year.
We're not out of the woods, but we're certainly in a better place than where we were, let's say, a year and a half ago. But we're just going to keep fighting to make sure that we're ready for whatever the customers need from us.
Growing optimism, even with some bumps still ahead, as ag equipment manufacturers navigate uncharted waters with the supply chain. From troubles with supply chain to troubles that we have had moving grain, is that situation also improving? We have Joe Vaclavic, Andrew Jackson, and Alan Hoskins rejoining us for our live taping from right here at National Farm Machinery Show. That's next.